I get it, you're scrolling through endless TV options, trying to figure out if that shiny new OLED is really worth the price tag, or if you'll end up watching movies on a screen that looks great on paper but falls flat in your living room. You don't want to waste money on something that sounds perfect in a spec sheet but ends up being a disappointment when you finally plug it in. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So let's talk about the LG C2 48-inch OLED evo and see if it actually lives up to the hype for the kind of setup most of us have at home. First off, the biggest draw of any OLED is the claim of infinite contrast and those deep, inky blacks that make a dark scene look like it belongs in a theater, not a living room. The C2 delivers on that, thanks to its self-emissive pixels that can turn completely off. In practice, when you dim the lights and fire up a Netflix thriller or a sci-fi series, the shadows feel weighty and the bright highlights pop without the halo you sometimes see on LCDs. It's not just a marketing buzzword, it's a real visual difference you notice the moment you switch from a standard LED to this panel. But picture quality isn't the only thing you'll be dealing with once the box is opened. The C2 comes with LG's 9th Gen Alpha 5 AI processor 4K. What that means in everyday use is that the TV automatically tweaks color, upscales lower resolution content, and reduces noise without you having to dive into menus. I tried watching a 1080p YouTube cooking tutorial and the image was surprisingly crisp, almost as if it were native 4K. When you're watching live sports, the processor keeps motion smooth, so fast-moving players don't turn into a blur. That set-and-forget vibe is great for anyone who just wants to press play and enjoy, rather than spending half an hour fiddling with picture settings. If you're a gamer, the C2's Game Optimizer mode is worth a closer look. It supports NVIDIA GSANC, FreeSync Premium, and variable refresh rate, which together mean you get a more stable frame rate and fewer screen-tearing artifacts. I hooked up a PS5 and ran a fast-paced racing game. The latency felt negligible practically at the level of a monitor and the colors stayed vivid even during the rapid shifts of a nighttime cityscape. For console gamers who value responsiveness and don't want to sacrifice visual fidelity, this TV punches above its price class. Now, let's talk about the practical side of installing a 48-inch OLED in a typical home. The panel is designed to be wall-mounted with a 300,200mm Visa pattern, but the mount isn't included, so you'll need to buy one separately. If you already have a sturdy wall mount, the installation is straightforward. The TV is relatively lightweight for its size, which makes handling easier. However, the gallery mode that LG promotes, where the screen shows artwork when you're not watching anything, does rely on a decent amount of ambient light to look good. In a dark bedroom, you might see the art look a bit flat, so the feature shines best in well-lit spaces like a living room wall that also serves as a decorative focal point. One hidden trade-off that buyers often overlook is the risk of burn-in with OLEDs. LG has implemented pixel shifting and a log luminance reduction feature, which mitigate the issue, but the technology still isn't immune. If you frequently watch content with static elements, think news tickers, gaming HUDs, or even a channel's logo in the corner, it could, over years, lead to faint image retention. For most casual viewers who switch channels or play games for a few hours a day, it's not a deal-breaker, but heavy-use gamers or people who leave a static UI on the screen for long stretches should weigh that risk. Another practical consideration is sound. The C2 relies on a built-in speaker array that's adequate for dialogue and moderate TV volume, but it lacks the depth you'd expect for immersive movie nights or high-octane gaming. If you're planning to use it as your main home theater screen, budgeting for a soundbar or a small surround system makes sense. The TV does support Dolby Atmos pass-through, so you won't lose any audio information if you add external speakers later. Who should buy this TV? If you're someone who values top-tier picture quality, wants a TV that looks great both for movies and modern gaming, and you're comfortable either mounting it or buying a compatible stand, the LG C2 is a solid choice. It's especially appealing for apartment dwellers or small family households where a 48-inch screen fits nicely without overwhelming the space. The AI-driven upscaling and low input lag also make it a future-proof option if you plan to keep it for a few years while moving from 1080p content to 4K streaming in next-gen consoles. Who should skip it? If you're on a tight budget and can't stretch to the cost of an OLED, or if you primarily watch daytime TV with static graphics, a high-quality LCD might.